yesterday the fact that we've really been fully under the New World Order since the mid-'80s. The U.S. has been seized and used as a weapon, an engine of tyranny worldwide, and we've been given tyranny here domestically as well. We're being treated like the third world nations that the private banks have fraudulently conquered. The Federal Reserve is just a holding company front for the top less than 10 banks. It was 10 back at the time of the Federal Reserve Act. It's been very secretive, but some of that information's come out. And they're partners with the Bank of England. They're partners with the Bundesbank. They coordinate through the G20. They don't even deny this anymore. And so you abolish the Federal Reserve. You put the power back under the Congress, which is in the Constitution, and you educate the public about the issuance of currency and credit, and you turn credit loose to be an engine for the population. You know, it came out over a decade ago, the comprehensive annual financial reports that they set up in the early 50s in Chicago, and by the 70s became the model of the country and the world. Australia has them, England has them, Germany has them, Canada has it. And so they use lawyer tricks to distract the public. They say, oh, well, on budget, we've got a budget shortfall, or on budget, we need more taxes. When the budget generally is less than about 15%, and that's just a dead reckoning guesstimation of the state of Texas, Travis County, where I live, similar around other parts of the country and the world. You know, some places the budget's 30% compared to the real assets of the comprehensive annual financial report. We have a DVD documentary I produced called Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports Exposed. And once we started exposing this in the late 90s with Walter Burien and others, and Bob and many others exposing it, these were public before, but in the age of the internet, they're now making most of it secret. But you can still see the summaries. And so what you have is the state of Texas or the University of Texas. These are just examples. Where last time I checked, University of Texas had $50+ billion in assets separate from their oil and gas and land holdings. Because in Texas, the feds don't own much property. The state of Texas owns a bunch, and it goes to the university funds. But that's separate even from that. They take that money, and they put it in Clear Channel Radio, for an example. They put it in the Rangers baseball team. They put it in defense contractors. They put it in all sorts of programs. They invested in carbon credit allotments. And so they're taking your money and then giving it to private interests. So people who say, oh, we better not get rid of the Federal Reserve, we'll get something worse. You can't get something worse. We have a dictatorship of the private banks controlling our economy and feeding our wealth into their systems, and then they have control of the insider trading and selectively enforce and allow them and their cronies to do this. So if we start auditing the Fed and get ready to abolish it, yeah, they're going to come back with some new thing that gives them the same power again, but they already have unlimited fraudulent power. So you can't get anything worse. You get into the Fed, as Bernanke's admitted, that would destroy the Fed because it's so corrupt, you will further discredit them and send them all to prison. So anybody that says, and I hear this mantra, don't audit the Fed, Ron Paul's bad, it is pure baloney. Bob Chapman.
I couldn't have said it better. You covered it all. You hit it right on the head, and that's the way it's been. And, you know, this goes all the way back to the 12th century that we know of. Most recorded history only goes back to the 7th century. But beyond there, it's smattering until you get into the Renaissance. And so this is nothing new. This has been done over and over and over again, and that's how I'm able to back into what these people will do next, because all you have to do is look at history and what they did before.
They're monopoly men. If they can get control of the government and the issuance of currency and credit, as the Rothschilds constantly said and put on the doorways of their houses, that as long as we control the issuance of currency and credit, I don't care who the king is.
And they create money to finance the king's wars.
And they finance the king's enemies, so they've got to come to them.
That's right. Both sides of every conflict.
Saddam Hussein, CIA. Bin Laden, CIA. Fidel Castro, CIA. It's all staged. Pol Pot, CIA. Brzezinski brags about it.
And he's one of the main architects, along with Henry Kissinger. Fortunately, they're getting old.
Hey,
but
let me
there'll
ask
be
you.
people there to take their place, that's for sure.
I want to go to Mike, Kathy, Tom, and Kevin quickly here, Bob, but who are the new super gophers? Because we really don't see a Richard Holbrooke or somebody like that, a Rahm Emanuel, replacing these super gophers of the elite. I mean, who do you see to replace David Rockefeller and people like that?
It's a hard call right now. I just can't answer that. I don't know.
Me neither. Because it seems like those old-timers were a lot more hard-working. You talk to more modern globalists, and they really seem soft.
Well, they're certainly not aggressive, and we certainly don't know who's being groomed or which ones are being groomed, and it's generally kept from us. And most of the people we know who are involved now at the upper level or the semi-upper level, they're usually from 65 years old onward. Occasionally they'll be 55 or onward, but they're usually older men.
Let's talk to John in Florida and Mike and others. Go ahead, John.
Hi, thanks for having me. I got a couple questions. As far as if we have a revolution and what have you, and we totally destroy the tyrannical government we have in place, what happens to our money we have in savings? As far as does the dollar turn, do we go?
Well, that's how they hold us hostage. We've had a 98% devaluation since 1913, and it's just like a bad employee or sometimes a mean husband that's beating you up. You just got to leave. I mean, it's going to be rough either way. Bob Chapman.
Well, if you've got money in the bank and in the general stock market and in bonds, you're going to lose a lot of money, maybe all of it. The only safe place to be is gold and silver.
All right, go ahead.
With the Federal Reserve thing, I was speaking with a banker the other day, and they couldn't enlighten me on the facts. But I see with my savings account, we get a under 0.25% interest for savings. In turn, the bank loans me somebody else's money, which is the way the money is that they give me in loans, at 3% to 18%. And how is it legal for them to do that with the Federal Reserve having the interest rate set at 0 to 0.25%?
Because that low rate is for the bankers, not for you, Bob Chapman.
That's right. And incidentally, you may not be borrowing your neighbor's deposit because the banks historically have created 8 to 10 times more credit than what they have in deposits.
That's right. You're paying interest. Go ahead.
And recently, during this last go-around, they got 40 to 50 to 60 to 70 times basic deposits. And they had to know that they were going to get in trouble.
Yeah, to explain
and they're not
that.
Stupid.
To explain that, they're charging people with credit cards in many cases 25, 30% interest on literally made-up money. Okay? So they want you to default so that they get your real assets and get control of you. The name of the game is control. Thank you, John. Mike in Wyoming. You're on the air, Mike.
Yes, hi, Alex, Bob. Bob, are you keeping up with this UBS situation versus the IRS?
Yeah, the Swiss government.
Right.
And the Swiss government's come back unofficially and said, well, UBS under the law in Switzerland can't do that. And another prominent person within the Swiss government says, well, if you do that and make them expose these people, well, the biggest bank in the country is going to go under.
Yeah, that was Times of London.
And thousands of people are going to be unemployed, et cetera. And he's right. And, they let Switzerland do what they did for many, many years. People brought wealth to Switzerland to have it professionally managed, but also to avoid onerous taxation by different countries.
And by the way, they are selectively looting those offshore bank accounts. All the big boys do whatever they want offshore and don't get touched. They want to rob people that got a few $1 million or whatever.
And you're right about that. I lived in Switzerland. I know the mentality. In fact, I went to school at the Université de Genève. I took the interpreter's course for French. And So living in Switzerland for 3 years, speaking both French and German, you get a pretty good idea of where people are coming from. And you got to remember that during the war, they cooperated fully with Germany. And when Germany wanted to get things that they couldn't get otherwise, the Swiss would help them do it or manufacture it for them, and they would store much of the stolen things that were taken from people who were put into camps. And it was dreadful what they did, really dreadful.